All right, let's apply what we've just learned. So derivative of 5e to the x is just going to be 5e to the x. Derivative of 2 is 0. I've got some product rule here, so derivative of the first, 2x times e to the x, plus, that stays the same, derivative of e to the x is just e to the x. Again, product rule, derivative of the first is 3, rewrite the first, take the derivative of the second, but it just stays the same. If I wanted to, I could then factor out that e to the x. So I would have 3 plus 3x plus 1, which is 3x plus 4. All right, I'm going to use quotient rule. So that tells me derivative of the top times the bottom minus derivative of the bottom times the top over bottom squared. All right, factoring, that's going to be e to the x times e to the x minus 1 minus e to the x. Well, that's just going to be negative 1 over e to the x minus 1 squared. And there's my derivative. I could rewrite this, of course, negative e to the x over e to the x minus 1 squared, only slightly nicer. This is just my basic a to the x rule. So that's going to give me ln of 4 times 4 to the x. And if you don't believe me, we could put this in our calculator and test it. So in my calculator, I could graph the derivative. So I can find that under alpha window. I've got n derivative. So I could take the derivative with respect to a of 4 raised to the a, and then let my a be equal to all of my different x values. And then I also want to graph ln of 4 times 4 to the x and see if those look the same. So I'll zoom standard. Okay, so here's my derivative. And then my function that I think it's going to be is right on top. So I can see that that is in fact true. I've got quotient again. So derivative of the top is going to be 1 over 2 root e to the x times derivative of the inside, which is e to the x, minus derivative of the bottom is just 1 times the top over bottom squared. So e to the x over root e to the x is just root e to the x. So I've got 1/2 root e to the x minus root e to the x is negative 1/2 root e to the x over x squared. I can simplify that, negative root e to the x over 2x squared.